What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Court. After our last episode, we definitely wanted to keep it going with a few of the topics that we've been talking about, and no one else better that we can think of than one of the guys that was on one of those most recent championship teams, and a player, a friend that we've always wanted to bring on the show. And finally, we're able to grab him and jump into this episode. So without further ado, Nareg, welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good, dude.
Man, good.
We're excited, definitely, to have you on finally. We've been talking about it for a while, but everything good during quarantine with you?
Yeah, we finally get some basketball back, so I'm excited for that. Too much
definitely.
sitting at home. I'm not used to that at all.
100%. I mean, you coach and play, so both of those sides kind of stopped, right? Playing, we haven't jumped back in for a while, but you're still training and coaching, right?
Yeah, training, coaching, and playing now too. So, I mean, I was playing throughout quarantine, just working on my game, but now it's like gyms have opened up, so we get some 5-on-5 runs, and so it's kind of normal.
Yeah, I saw your videos like before gyms were open. You were just finding a court, random courts to go play.
Yes,
and train.
Some of actually the guys that I trained, they built a court in their backyard.
Oh,
So yeah, it's been really interesting to see that process, and then go in there and it's like, oh cool, we got a court now.
Yeah.
'Cause before we were at a park, some of the rims were taken down. I'm like, oh god, like, what are we gonna do now?
yeah.
The minute we were going to like these Clipper courts, right, where they have the Clipper logo, and then they started taking the rims out.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you serious, man? Come on. It was just the ultimate kill for 7-8 months. Finally, we're back into it. But we want to just jump right in, man. We want to jump right into a few of the topics that
Get the controversy
we
going.
want to jump right in, you know? Look, you've grown up in Massis your whole life. We've grown up in Arad our whole life. A lot of people don't understand what it means to grow up in a chapter, right? They look at it like we're just playing basketball here. They don't look at it like, you know what, man, my dad or whoever spent a lot of time here, and now I'm here too. What did it mean to you to grow up in Massis? And then we'll get to the A division part about it too. But what does it mean for you to play for Massis, coach for Massis?
Well, I mean, I've grown up in it, like you guys said, and at the end of the day, it's about our Armenian community. I enjoyed playing when I was a kid. I looked up to, the older players, and now I'm an older player and I have kids that are, that I train, I coach, that, look up to me. So it's always gratifying to play there and to coach there, help with the chapter. Again, it's all about the community, and it's not about, the particular chapter, because I have friends in different chapters. I have players in different chapters. So everyone at the end of the day is Armenian. So that's how I look at it. But at the same time, we have a lot of pride in building Massis and,
Of course,
continuously growing.
Definitely.
Transitioning to that pride about being in Massis, you obviously won a huge championship for them in 2018. That team, let's talk about that a little bit. We did our last episode with the top 5 teams of all time, and we both have you guys in that mix. Pat has you in the top 5. But let's go back with that team a little bit. You guys had been together for a few years, but that 2018 team, what separated that group to finally be able to win it?
Actually, I was not on that team. Nick and I were not on that team. We were on a different team. We were kind of rivals with them, and we decided that year that it's time to bring the two together. So we brought the team together, and we had practices with our group. We had about 15 people in the beginning, and it was like, okay, this will work. And honestly, it was the greatest move that I made. The group of guys were they brought us in, and we had a lot of dinners actually discussing the merger, which is really interesting because it's not the NBA, it's home and basketball. But ultimately, when we made that happen, I said, wow, this team is very, very talented. We had no idea that we were going to have Gary on the roster. So originally we had, Jack, Nick together. I said, wow, this is a great
big combo.
Yeah. And when we found out we were going to have Gary, he came in a little bit late. We had like maybe 2 practices with him.
Yeah.
And we jumped straight into the tournament, and nobody really knew their roles in the beginning.
It's always tough.
Yeah, definitely. But the great thing about that was before we got there, they were a contender in themselves, right? So our bench was essentially a starting five. We had a really good bench.
Yeah.
In that championship game, obviously we played a limited number of players because of the fact that we were kind of flowing. So you just don't mess with the flow. But our bench is really, really good. When they're out there, they're playing. So when we got Gary, it was like, okay, like we have a team here. Now we just got to establish roles. Yeah. That was the primary focus.
I mean, you guys looked really in sync. If you didn't have told us, we wouldn't have known it was like a few practices. You would think you guys had been together for a while.
I think that's because, so when I originally got there, I came from a team where I was kind of scoring, I was leading, all that stuff. So I learned this actually in college. In college, they put a lot of stress on the point guard becoming a leader, and everything is the point guard's fault if, it goes wrong.
Yeah.
So I said to myself when I got there, this is Jack's team. And by the way, I don't think Jack gets enough credit for being the player that he is. He's one of the greatest Armenian players ever, in my opinion.
I mean,
no, he's very
talking
good,
about
D1
Jack,
guy.
he played at Kansas State.
Yeah, he played at Kansas State. And when I got there, we weren't on great terms because we would compete, right? So when I got there, I said, okay, this is going to be very interesting. Our first practice was a little shaky. And then he became one of my favorite teammates ever. And the roles that we established was, I always told him, this is your team. I'm a point guard, I'll lead, but at the end of the day, I know this is your team and we go as you go. Yeah. So that I think helped establish roles. Obviously, we have the guys that pretty much built it, which is Eddie and Sok, and they know what to do with guys in terms of player management and talking to guys off the court. They did a great job pretty much gluing the team together.
Yeah, you don't see those things all the time with some of those guys. And there was no disrespect when we made our top fives to anyone. We just felt, well, I'll let Pat say why he had you guys in your top five. The reason why I left you guys out, just right outside of it, top six, was even though that team was as talented as it was, I thought maybe just because I had looked at that championship game, and like you said, you guys only went through about 6 guys that game. So that's what I was basing it off of. But there is no doubt that you guys had, like I said, one of the most talented starting fives offensively that I've ever seen. Because we watched that game again a few days ago. The combination between Jack and Nick inside was amazing. You turned it up that game. You were connecting on everything. You had a rough 2 shots in the beginning, but after that, it was like back into... And then you add Gary and Arthur in that group.
Yeah.
So Pat has you in your top 5.
Well, my whole thing was I was at that game. I was watching it, and my perspective. I played against you guys before you merged too. You guys were already a problem before. So what I was thinking was, how in the world are these other teams going to compete with your speed, your shooting, your athleticism? And at the end of the day, your bigs are strong. I mean, we kept hearing the topic of, can you guys keep up with the physicality of these other teams in the past?
Right.
I'm like, I think you can. I don't see why not.
Right.
And the game's changed.
Big time.
If you look at the game from today's perspective, I think you guys would compete against anybody. But again, we kind of want to hear what your thoughts are on
where
that.
do you rank
what do you
yourselves?
think?
Well, with this team, in my opinion, obviously I'm going to be biased because it is my team. I think we are one of the most talented teams by far, just like you said. In terms of comparing ourselves to older teams, it's really tough to compare different eras of basketball. Even in the NBA, you can't really have that argument.
Yeah.
We are much quicker. We're more guard-based nowadays. For example, Jack used to be like a 2-guard, right? So he has a mindset of a guard, and he just transformed into a big because we needed a big. Nick can play outside, inside, right? So I don't think you compare an older generation team to us. We are much quicker. I know that the game has changed in terms of the way it's reffed. There's a lot more foul calls now, hand check, all that stuff. So it depends what kind of reps you get for that game. And it depends... depends on which bigs are outdoing each other. That's
yeah.
pretty much
Also,
what
you
it
also
is.
gotta look at who you guys beat too. You guys beat a really good Massis 1 team to get there. You guys had to beat A1 to get there to get that championship. And A1 obviously
Wasn't that the year that you guys played Sean too?
We played Sean as well. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of good teams you have to beat to go through.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So it's not like these teams were a joke.
Right.
So you guys had a hard time getting there. So when people say you guys aren't at that caliber, I'm just come on.
I think what it is we had a full team just for that tournament. In 2019, we didn't have half our players.
Yeah.
And before that, we hadn't merged. So we haven't really been given the opportunity to fail with that unit.
yeah.
So if right now we went into a tournament with that exact team and we lost, okay,
Sure.
we can make an argument. But we haven't played with that team. And the thing about that team was we gelled so quickly and we were playing for each other. Gary didn't say, I have to score 30 today. No, if he scored 2 points, he would have been happy. If I scored 2 points, we won.
Sure.
That's fine. Jack scored 2, he wouldn't care. So that was the thing about that team where if I'm hot, we're going Nareg. If Jack's hot, we're going to Jack. I could care less what happens. Our bench, who just like I said, was like a starting 5, they were supportive of everything. They just wanted to win. That's all they wanted to do, which is what brought the team together. Our practices, we would compete, but it was a brotherhood. And for it to happen so quickly,
Yeah.
I mean, we were rivals before.
Yeah.
I would not, let's say Eddie and Sok, who are like brothers to me now, I would not talk to them off the court before when we used to compete because it would get really physical.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I call them for anything, and it's just.
I remember that game. It was 2014. You guys lost. Sorry to bring it up. 2A championship game. Buzzer beater.
One
That
of
was
the most iconic.
And there, I remember in one of you guys played another game. It was a tough one. Same thing. It came down to the
always
wire.
competed.
Yeah. So I saw the frustration like in your guys' eyes. I know it was tough. So
it's tough to lose on the
so
buzzer
when
beater.
you combined, I was like, wow, like they really
Care
want this.
enough,
They care.
Yeah.
You want this.
A lot of the times people don't put the pride aside to get to the common goal, which is the championship. But you're leaving one big part out, Nareg, and I think we would probably hear it for a few weeks if we didn't mention it either. So I don't know if your dad's going to be upset that you haven't given him a little bit of a
Well, I knew that topic was going to come about, so I waited for...
If we left our dad out of the conversation for 10 minutes...
Well, I knew it was coming, so I waited. Dad, if you're watching this, I was waiting for you. Don't worry.
So let's talk about it. We, all three of us have been coached by our dad in the A division level.
Right.
You guys have a different kind of a chemistry with each other because I think he also played point guard, right, for a lot of the years. So what was it like for you being coached by your dad in a position that he knew plenty about how to play that role? So how was that mix between you and him?
Well, first of all, winning when your dad is the coach and it being a big deal is one of the greatest feelings. When you go home at night, it's like, okay, after all that, we did it.
Yeah.
And it's just, when I look back at it, winning with my dad is just special, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, like any father-son relationship, you're going to butt heads. And shout out to the mediator, which is my mom. She would come to every single game, and she's probably been my biggest supporter since day one. She, what the thing is with her is she'll tell me when I had a bad game. And then after she's done telling me, my dad would start, and then we would butt heads, and she'd be like, "Oh, here we go, here we go." But so she mediated that. But with my dad, it's an example. I'll give you guys an example. So when I was younger, we would shoot a lot of very long range threes, right? And he would make me continuously shoot them in practice. Obviously, just working on it. And then I'd come into a game, and obviously I'm wired to shoot that. So I would shoot it, and he'd look at me like, "That's not a good shot." Yeah. You built that. You made that. So we'd butt heads, but it's a great experience. If I was gonna coach my son in the future, I would probably not do it. It's just tough. Because it's your dad. Your dad's gonna be a little bit harder on you, and then you're gonna be like, "This is my dad. Like I want to tell him how I feel about certain things." So
I mean, you talked about the great parts of winning, but with that comes the horrible drives home when you lose. Where he's obviously emotional about losing, so are you, but you're the player, he's the coach.
Right.
That line doesn't get stopped.
Right.
It gets crossed over after the games, and it's a funny relationship and dynamic because we've known your dad for a long time, and you've known our dad, and we both have respect for each other. And I'm hoping, to see your dad keep coaching in A Division. He's one of the best coaches we've seen. Talking about that group, moving forward, where do you see your team? Let's assume things pick up right where they left off. Where do you guys see yourselves right now?
I would say we return with that 2018 unit. Now that Gary's here as well, I think, and everyone's in solid shape. So I would say we come back with that 2018 group, and with that group comes a run. We should be making a run. So, and it'd be interesting to play against the other one right now. Definitely. With Andre.
That'd be a fun match.
Yeah, definitely a fun matchup. So let's say we started playing next week, we would have that unit playing again. So that'll be the first time since 2018.
Yeah. I think if you set that up right now, you would get at least 300 or 400 people in the
That'll be
stands.
a fun game for sure. Yeah, that's...
What do you have to say to, let's say, someone from Home and MN is watching right now and they want to continue this relegation system, but they don't understand the fact that relegating a team like you guys is hurting A Division. They just look at it and say, man, these guys they didn't show up to San Diego with a full team. They didn't play hard here. But in reality, they should be finding ways to keep you in A Division rather than finding ways to get you out of it. When you got 3 or 4 guys that have played Division 1 and you're sending them to 2A now, let's say, it's hurting the game, right?
Right.
So what are your thoughts about this whole relegation system that they've tried to put in place?
Well, it makes sense for certain teams, but for a team like ours where you look at it and you say, okay, they were kind of half built the last couple of years where half their players were either out of town or they didn't play. You can't really move that team down when they're at full strength because it kind of messes up the 2A division.
Yeah.
And then the 1A division, there's a lot of people that want to see that team return to its former state, right? Mm-hmm. So I would say that, there are certain teams where you just can't touch, or you check the roster. Who do you have on your team in order for us to keep you where you are? Yeah. Because at this point, every player, every team. Who do you have on your roster? You have this and this guy. Okay, that's a 1A team. Let's keep you there.
Yeah.
Because moving someone like Gary and Jack to 2A, that's just not good for the league at all. Yeah. So that's what I would say. Like, that's my opinion with that. But I don't know what the outcome will be.
Yeah. I just gotta ask, man. Like, I know you guys didn't have Gary. I know there was injuries, but how in the world did you guys even drop like that, man? Like, you guys still had a good team.
Okay, so we're talking 2019 Nubs?
Yeah, 19.
No, just in general.
In general.
I know you were injured for a part of the year.
Yeah,
right?
I broke my hand that year. I returned, but it was like we weren't practicing the same. We had guys missing practices. We knew we didn't have Gary, so it was like, are we going to play this year or are we not? And then last second, I got back, I think, a week before the tournament. And the doctors told me, because I had fully broken this part of my hand right here. It was a boxer's fracture. They told me, yeah, you have 2 more weeks left. Don't try to play. And when I hear 2 more weeks and don't try to play,
I want to play.
That means that you're clear today and I'm going to play. So I said, all right, guys, I'm ready to go. I said, what? You ready to go? Okay, let's input this team and let's play. And it was kind of, we weren't really in that 2018 mode, especially the fact that we didn't have Nick. Nick was suspended.
Yeah, that was
huge too. So it's like we have our roster. Some of our bench guys didn't want to play. So we were not sure we were going to play that tournament. So our mental was not the same. I think that's what the drop off was.
Right.
So
yeah, not having, obviously Gary being college and focusing on that,
right.
Not having Nick is such a big deal.
That's
another, especially in 1A, you need those bigs.
Yeah.
And that, for a guy like that who's that flexible,
right,
it sucks.
Well, hopefully someone is watching from regional and they kind of reconsider this moving forward, because look, when things come back, we have to have the best teams competing again in A Division, best players in A Division. So let's see what happens, man.
Can I interrupt you guys with one thing? we talked about my dad, and I'm not saying this because he's my dad. He had a lot on his plate with our team, managing all of us, including myself. So I want to shout him out for that. That's a very, very difficult job where you have someone like me who's very fiery, and then you have someone like Jack, Nick, and then Gary comes in. It's like, you know, it's tough to manage. And so him, Sok, Eddie, I mean, together, that's a lot on their plates, and they did a phenomenal job with our roster. And it showed. And there were times where he would see something in a game where I want to play fast, right? So he would tell me, no, today's not the day to do that. Today's the day we go into our bigs. And I said, okay. So I bought in fully and basically listen to your coaches if there are kids watching.
No, but in all honesty, like our dad always tells us, like your dad knows the game. He's always like, whenever they play against each other, it's always a chess match. You know, he's like, I always have trouble against him.
Yeah, those are fun matchups. Very fun matchups for sure. Yeah.
Let's jump into one of our next topics, which is tied into home and men a little bit. Competition versus taking it a little too far sometimes. It happens to everyone in home and men, but where do you draw the line between being competitive versus, hey man, you know, like I don't like you when I'm playing against you?
I think a lot of competitors like myself, including our team, are very misunderstood. That's just my personal opinion. It's like you see them competing on the court. Obviously, we're going to compete. We're fiery. But then off the court, after the game ends, let's say I lost the game, 30 minutes after, where I've gone through my little period of I'm upset, I could care less. Like I'm friends with so many guys that I play against. So many guys that, you know, we go at each other. We're talking nonstop on the court. People are looking, oh, look at these guys. Like they're jawing at each other. After the game, I go to Chili's with them and have dinner. You know, like it's really not a big deal. But on the court, I think everybody has an alter ego where you're this guy on the court where you're competing and you want to win and you do anything to win. Obviously in a you know, clean fashion. Yeah. But then off the court, it's just a different person because you're not really competing with them anymore. It's like, you know, we're all Armenians. Yeah. We're all brothers and sisters off the court. So I think competition versus the off the court stuff is just it's two separate things. So I don't think anyone should really look at somebody on the court and say, no, that's their personality off the court. It's just not like that. Mm-hmm. So that's my personal opinion on that topic.
Yeah, I think that's the tough part, like separating making it personal and just making it about the game.
Right. It's just a game.
Exactly. I mean, but you know, I want to ask you. Obviously, we've seen you in a couple of games where you're intense, when you're not, you're a little more relaxed. It feels like every time you're playing against Arat or A1 in particular, you're always like on fire. You're always like focused and determined. Do you have like a mindset going into those games where like, hey, I am playing A1. This is a little different?
Well, number one, I have a lot of respect for those guys. Mm-hmm. And anytime you're playing against a really good team, they force you to level yourself up. Mm-hmm. So there are games, I go into every game with the same mindset. But when I enter a game like that, for example, it's like, okay, we got to play today. Or else, you know, you get embarrassed if you're not, you know, you don't bring your A game. Yeah. So it's just you enter that game and they force you to level up and you just play that certain style. But every game I enter with that same mindset and just something about them. Like they just,
I mean, one of
force us to level up.
Matchups that we always look at is you versus Narb. It's a fun matchup. I know you guys have played against each other for a long time. Let's just talk more recently. A division battles against each other. Do you find it like, I always try and think of someone that I enjoy playing against, but at the same time hate playing against. Is Narb someone that you kind of look at, or you don't really think about who you're playing?
I don't really think about the matchup because you get so detailed into that and it kind of messes up your game. Yeah. I just think, okay, I'm going into a game, I'm going to do what I do. But at the same time, again, I have a lot of respect for him as well. He plays a different style of defense on me than other people. I mean, he's very physical. And I actually look forward to playing against him because it's just different. It forces me to play a different style. And it's forced me to figure out how to score in different ways. So, you know, when when you play against someone like that, it again forces you to level up. So, and I love that. I love the challenge of the competition. You don't want to play against somebody that's like, okay, he's gonna do what he does, and I can't do anything about it. I mean, Narb comes at me hard, and it's fun.
Yeah,
it's fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
We enjoy watching it. It's a fun matchup between you guys. Moving forward a little bit, because I know it's something that you are very involved with nowadays, which is coaching and training kids. We coach. We always talk about it in these shows. How do you take the kids to the next step? Now, a big part of what kids are doing now is training, working on their skill and talent. Where do you draw the line between, hey, you've used all these things to get better, now you have to implement it in a game?
So I think the most important thing when you're training somebody is understanding what they do on the floor well. You don't want to, let's say, defining a role, for example, is very important right now. So if I have a shooter, a 3-and-D guy that I see that this is what they're going to be, they're not a guy that you give the ball to and they're going to take 25 dribbles and, go and score. You primarily focus on that and you get repetitions in where they would catch the ball in a game.
100%.
So let's say coming off pin downs or coming off flares, we'd work on that primarily during the training session. So it directly translates to the game. If I took that player and I started doing all kinds of moves with them, they're not going to bring that out in the game because that's not who they are. So that's where you see, let's say parents say, wow, look what he's doing in practice, or look what he's doing in training. Why isn't he doing that in the game? Because that's just not his game. Everyone has something that they're good at and something that you got to really focus on when you're training. Mm-hmm. So that's where I think a lot of people just work on ISO, and not everyone's an ISO player.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a really good point that you made. I feel like a lot of kids nowadays, they don't know what they're capable of doing. But I want to kind of jump into this point where, at least with us, what we analyze, players nowadays, a lot of them are getting better. They're more athletic, they're more skilled, they're better shooters. I mean, I wasn't that good. No offense, you weren't that great either when you were that young.
Wow.
But I'll say this, like throughout the years, we found a way to develop in a different way. But these kids, they don't have that kind of experience that we have. We have in-game experience. We played a lot.
Right.
These guys, I feel like they don't play a lot.
We watched the game a lot growing up. I don't feel like they watch it as much.
Yeah.
That's very true. Like, for example, I know some players during a national championship game were playing. They'll be like, yes, and that's crazy. We were
drives me nuts.
Like, I know you guys were. I was on YouTube searching players, trying to figure out what they do, watching all kinds of games. I mean, it's just not the same right now. It's like, okay, I did my training, did my work. We're getting on Call of Duty. That's just, Call of Duty is not going to get you better in basketball. If you want to really advance, you got to put everything you have into it, including off the court. Eating right, watching basketball, sleeping, which they don't sleep. They stay up until 4 a.m. It's just that's not going to get you where you want to go.
Yeah.
And it's tough.
Exactly. I mean, it's understanding where you are on the court. I feel like a lot of them, they don't know where they're supposed to be. They don't know they just want to go towards where the ball is.
Well, that's what they watch the NBA.
We had a joke about the fact that Steph, I know you love Steph.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're a younger kid watching Steph, you're not really doing yourself justice in the game. Go watch Steph train, because that's where, if you see the shots he's taking 1,000 times a day, then you know why he's taking those in the game. But I used to just copy. I tell my kids, find a player that you think is very good at what he does. Copy him.
Right.
For me, I'm copying Ray Allen, the best shooters of all time, Klay Thompson. I'm copying them. I'm sure you do the same with point guard play and shooters, but I don't know. A lot of people ask us all the time, where is the next step going to be for Armenian kids going to D1 and then playing professional? Let's say they want to do that one day. What do you think it's going to take for Armenian kids to go to that next step and get someone, let's say, to the NBA?
Well, I think that the first thing that we have a problem with is every parent tells their 9-year-old kid that you're going to play Division 1, which is not a realistic goal at that particular time. You're putting it in their heads that you're going to be a Division 1 basketball player. Instead, we grew up on having fun playing basketball. We just naturally progressed. So you get them better at that age. You put them with the right trainers. Another problem is kids jumping around. You go to this guy and this guy and this guy, and it's just like what you're picking up bad habits from here, taking it to the next person. I think sticking to one trainer or coach that you know really that you trust is important, and not putting so much pressure about Division 1. If you go Division 2, it's still good basketball.
Big time, yeah.
So the advancement is going to come with parents not putting so much pressure on their kids and letting the kids enjoy playing basketball, because that's when you enjoy it, you want it more, right? I enjoyed it. My dad never said you have to play. My dad never said you have to play college. I just naturally gravitated to the love of the game, and I will play every day. And he didn't have to tell me go outside and play. That's what you don't see now. I think a lot of parents are really pushing their kids, and eventually that creates resentment. And you see it, like, I don't want to come to training today. Like, if you asked me when I was a kid, I would go to training every hour of the day. Yeah. So, and they never told me my junior, senior year that, I want you to play in college. The way I played college was because of, you guys know Levon, he refs. Yeah, shout out Levon. He told me, he said, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean? I'm just playing basketball. He said, you could play in college, right? And I said, no, I have no idea. I'm just playing, I'm enjoying it. So he got me into college. He texted a couple of coaches, got me a couple of workouts, and that was just strictly, I had no idea, strictly love of the game. I think that's what it is. What's missing right now is just enjoyment of the game. That's how you're going to get
naturally done.
Like Gary, for example, Chivichan, he loves playing basketball. No one really, obviously Yao takes care of him, Yao pushes him, but no one really says you have to go to the gym. He wants to go to the gym. So I think that's what's missing right now.
Yeah, he never really came from a basketball background either. Like, his dad wasn't a basketball guy.
Right. So he just
loved the game.
He loved the game. His brother was really good, and just pushed him enough. And look at the success he's had. And it's all from inside. You can't teach that.
Yeah.
You got to have it inside. So then the next Armenian kid that, let's say, makes the NBA, it's going to come from here. They want to. They want to go work out. Their parents are not saying you have to. So I think that's where it's going to come from.
I agree, man. The last thing we want to talk about is the most recent tournament that we've all kind of played in, which was the Pan-Armenian Championships, right, in 2019. A great tournament for
nice.
you guys.
And you have that picture right there. Perfect.
We do.
You guys are really ready for me today. Nice.
We were going to put it right on the table, but that would have been too much.
Yeah, that would have been.
Let's talk about that Beverly Hills team a little bit, because I didn't even know how that team was put together up until we showed up there and we saw that. We had seen a little picture of everyone, and that was the first time we said, oh, wow, they got a bunch of guys from everywhere on this team. But how were you involved with that team? How are you approached? And how was the team built?
So the team was built, Ara Jejayan, Jay, and his son Serop. They are master recruiters. If you want him to find you a player from Russia that you've never heard of, he'll get you that player. So when that picture was surfaced, I didn't even know who half the players were. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I got that and I'm looking at it. I saw all the tags and I went on those Instagrams and said, oh, this guy looks good. This guy looks good. I had no idea. So obviously, Jay told me, I want you to play for me. And I said, yeah, of course. I mean, I enjoy playing for him. And we got on the plane and I knew obviously the guys that were coming from LA. And I've heard of some of the guys that
were overseas,
like Arkady, Artem, Sevag. So I knew of them. We got to Moscow and that was the first time I met Artem. And then we got to Armenia and I met Arkady. And then I introduced myself to Vartan, Pogos. I had no idea who they were. So we met in the lobby of the Marriott.
Yeah.
So people think like we practiced. We had no idea who anyone was. I didn't know what they did on the court. So that team was assembled by obviously Jay. Again, just, I mean, you have no idea all the player lists that he has that I didn't even know exist. So that's how that team was assembled. When we got to Armenia, we decided after the first two games, we had a pretty bad schedule. So we weren't tested where our starters didn't get quality minutes.
Yeah.
So after the first couple of games, I said, maybe we should have a practice. And we said, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So we went in the gym, had one practice. And then jumped into our very tough quarterfinals,
Playoffs,
semifinal, and then final game. So, but thanks a lot again. Thanks a lot for that picture.
No, I mean, I can't believe you guys never practiced. That's so crucial. But you guys had a good flow regardless.
I think because the guys got along.
Yeah,
right
really
away we
important.
clicked. We were one of those, like, we would joke around with each other. We'd make fun of each other. It's like Artem and I, let's say we would make fun of each other and we hadn't just met each other.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so this is clicking. So when you click off the court, you guys know. On the court, it's just instantaneous bonding. And you play well together because you're communicating. So I think with a couple of more practices, I'm not saying, that, I mean, we pretty much had the game. We blew it. But with practices and everything, it would have been a little bit more, in sync with our semifinal, quarterfinal game, which both came down to the wire. So
Yeah. That championship game, let's jump into it a little bit. We had circled you guys as the team that we were going to play them.
Right.
I mean, unless that Iran game, or was it they were from
It was
Tehran.
Tehran. Yeah.
right.
That game was pretty intense, and we were like, wow, Tehran might actually beat these guys, but it would have been a surprise. We wanted to play you guys, I think, because we knew you guys were the most talented team in that bracket. Did you guys think about any of the other teams that you were going to play against? Tehran, LA, us. Did you look at those teams at all?
We had no idea who we were going to play against. The schedule got flipped once, I believe. We were set on a different road. So we knew ultimately that it was you guys that we were going to have to go through in order to win. We knew LA was good. And we didn't really know anything about the Tehran team until we saw them play the day before. We said, okay, this is going to be like, they play hard, they play physical, and I think it took a lot out of us with the LA game and that Tehran game, where we got into the finals like, wow, we've been battle tested, but at the same time we're dead. Like, just it's
It's been
especially
3
over
days in a
there,
row.
and the gym was 1,000 degrees. That didn't really help. But I mean, look, man, no excuses. We lost the finals. Hats off to you guys. But it was fun. Look, ultimately, I enjoyed that trip a lot. I enjoyed meeting all the guys on my team. I still keep in touch with them. So if you look at the grand scheme of things, it was a great experience. So I mean, I came back without the medal, but I mean, what can we
you
do at
see
this
yourself
point?
going back with that same group, or maybe the same core, try to compete again?
Yeah, I mean, we have unfinished business at this point, and we talk about it here and there. So it'll be cool to play with them again. And every time like we FaceTime them or we talk to them, it's like, you ready? I'm like, ready for what? I said, in 2 years it's time. I, like, okay,
I know.
all right, let's do it.
Coming up quick.
Yeah, it'll come. Yeah, it'll come very quickly. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. I would definitely do it again with that same unit.
It would mean a little bit more going back and playing again because of everything that's gone on the last few years. And if I feel like it's drawing us back in ways outside of basketball to go back one more time. But how much do you think about when we do go back at some point that it is more than just basketball?
I think it's extremely important for everybody to make their way back there. Let's say Pan Armenia comes back around. It's important for us to not just go and play. After we play, we go eat or we hang out in hotels. I think it's time for us to really become proactive in the community. And after we play, everyone enjoys watching it. It's an entertainment aspect of it, but it's important for us to go out and talk to the kids, help with any way we can, help rebuild, and show how much Armenians from all over the world care and want us to prosper and grow. So I would recommend everybody go back in, let's say, when is it, 2023?
Yeah.
Even earlier. I mean, just go back and connect with our community. It's crucial, in my opinion.
I kind of want to reflect on something real quick with you. So we talked about, as Armenians, we got to put in the work. We got to help each other out. Do you feel like for yourself, because of who you are, where you come from, those values helped you develop your own game and putting the work on your own? Like, talk a little bit about that.
Well, the most interesting thing about that is my size. So I've always been a smaller point guard. In college, I was one of the smallest on the court, and I had to put in a lot of extra work in order to stay on the court. And after I, developed my game after college and went on to play, all over, it was the work that saved me. You have guys that are 6'6" playing, point guard spot. How do you differentiate yourself from that guy?
Yeah.
Right. So, when I was playing in Nashville, I was playing against guys that played at Butler, played Division I schools. So I said, what can I do in terms of my workouts, tailor it in a way where when I get on the court with those guys, I stand out. So I think working hard is undervalued right now. People say it, but they don't do it. Yeah. It shows, and confidence is everything, right? You get your confidence from your body of work. So I know I put in the work 7 days this week. I know I'm going to perform well in this game. If you don't come in with that mindset, you don't come with confidence, like you're ready to compete today, it's not going to be good for you.
Yeah, you can't play at that high level look, we've seen you and a few other guys play at that higher level. If we don't take away something right that you've done, and I'm not just saying that because you're here, I really believe that you're one of the most hard working players that I've seen, dude. Like, these kids don't understand how much work it takes to get to that higher level of play. What's kind of your last remark as far as that? If you could give someone out there watching this something to take away to get to that higher level of play, whatever that is to them, what would you say?
There are a lot of days where I don't want to work out. A lot of days. There are days where I just hate basketball, but I love that I hate it, as if that makes any sense. It's like you want to play here. So when I was given the opportunity to play at a certain place, I said, okay, there's no way that right now with my current, with my current state, that I'm going to be okay over there. So I need to put in that extra work. And how do I put in that extra work? Make a plan. And on days where you're like, okay, I'm going to take a break today, you don't take a break.
Yeah.
Understand that you need to take care of your body, obviously. But you also have to say somebody else that you're going to play against. The point guard that I'm going to match up with is probably in the gym right now while I'm watching TV. That's the way I think. If I'm going to play against you, let's say, next week, I'm thinking, okay, Pat's in the gym right now. Pat's getting better. What am I doing? So I'm going to try to one-up you without actually playing against you until we get to that. Right.
It's about having that vision. Yeah.
Right. It's that mindset. I think that there's a lot of talented kids right now. A lot. And contrary to popular belief to non-Armenians that don't think Armenians can play, Armenians can play.
Oh, yeah.
Armenians can play. We just haven't been discovered. A lot of us have not been discovered. And we just need to continue working. There's a lot of talented players that have a chance. It's about the exposure. It's about the work. And I've always said, if you are good enough, they will find you. Yeah. So it's just about, getting in the gym and sacrificing your personal party time, which it's huge right now. The party scene, everyone wants to go and, have fun, but it takes a lot of sacrifice to play at a higher level. So that's what I would, leave off at. I would just work. I mean, everyone says it, but you really have to do it.
With that being said, do you have any plans to possibly play national team or play somewhere other than home and men, obviously? Actually,
in 2017, I was supposed to go for training camp with the national team, but I got injured. I had surgery actually that year that nobody knows about because I just didn't want to talk about it, and so I didn't end up going. But eventually down the line, I would love to. It would definitely be fun to represent Armenia,
your country, of course.
So definitely have plans. And I don't want to reveal too much here, but all I want to say is that everything that I do, coaching, playing, training, is to inspire the next generation. And obviously that's what we have. It's our next generation is what we got to build and continue to inspire them, continue to push them. And the way I kind of approach them and the way I coach my players is, no, don't worry. I never say, don't worry, you're going to make it. I kind of push them in a way where I push their buttons and I tell them what they can't do. So they get mad and they level up.
Yeah.
And they try to prove me wrong. And then I say,
There you go.
Awesome. There we go.
Yeah.
And they get mad. They
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Oh, he said I can't do this. I'll show him. Please show me. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So that's something that that's the way I approach it. But the most important thing to me is mentoring them on and off the court. Like I have a bond with a lot of my players where we work out and I piss them off. I even play one-on-one with them, make them upset, and then we go eat afterwards.
Why you got to do that to them?
You know what I mean?
Nareg?
So mentoring them, helping them on and off the court, not just basketball. I think it's bigger than basketball. Always been bigger than basketball. Everyone looks
You're
at
like a big brother to these guys.
Everyone looks at like me, let's say, and says, "Oh, he just plays coaches. It's just all basketball." But it's so much bigger than basketball. It's about life, discipline, and a lot of things that I've taken from the game and applied it to my life. I want to give to them so they apply it to theirs. So it's pretty much sums it up.
Yeah.
Hey man, a lot of things to look forward to.
Yeah, for sure.
In the upcoming years. We're gonna wrap it up. Nareg, this was a great chance to finally sit down together.
Thanks for having me.
We always just run
fun.
into each other in the gyms.
Yep.
It's not enough. But again, thank you, man.
I
Thank you for
appreciate you guys.
everything.
Thank you.
With that being said, guys, this was a great episode. Hope you guys all caught it at a good time. Until our next one, let's keep the debate and discussion going because that's what it's all about. So thank you guys for watching. Until next time, this is Off the Court. Peace.